I would be remiss if I did not serve my community. My community is what poured into me and produced who I am today. So for that, I am grateful. I actually have a contract in Mecklenburg County with Heartbeat Inc., and they're also called Thrive Family Wellness, where they are providing and going into the Black churches and providing 10 individual free sessions for any individual who wants to sign up for this. So I am going back into the community. I am providing my services, whether it's free pro bono, whether it's a sliding fee scale, or helping people get connected to resources within their community if I am not the right fit. So I do tell everyone, therapy is like finding the best pair of shoes for you. Just because you might like the way they look, you might not like that price tag, or it might just not be a good fit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Career Education Learning Center podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Rivers. This month of May is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month. And in association with that, we have on our show today, I am honored and privileged to have Dr. Simone McIntyre. Dr. McIntyre is founder and CEO of Speak Your Peace Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting. How are you doing today, Dr. McIntyre?
I am doing extremely well, and I pray that you are.
Thank you so much. Dr. McIntyre, tell my audience a little bit about yourself and your journey to your current career.
Absolutely. So I have been in the field of mental health, substance use from 2002. I actually went to college and said I was going to be an attorney. It was instilled in me growing up that I was going to be an attorney. My parents have videos of me walking around with my mom's bathrobe and a green hairbrush saying, "Here comes the judge." However, once I got into school and started taking psychology classes, things for me began to shift. And so I went to my mom and I said, "Hey, I don't think I'm going to be a lawyer. I believe I'm going to be a therapist." My parents are preachers. I'm a preacher's kid. And the first thing I was told is, "Simone, Black people don't do therapy, and they are not therapists." So I had the opportunity to begin to destigmatize mental health within my own family and begin to live out my dreams. I have served in various capacities, from being a care manager, a case manager, to working in group homes, working as a one-on-one peer support, and working my way up until I received my terminal degree and eventually opened up my own practice. So here I am, working and living and doing the ministry that I absolutely love, empowering lives, strengthening communities, and destigmatizing help-seeking behaviors, especially in Black and Brown communities, and bridging the gap between spirituality and philosophy in the Black church.
So your parents, my parents thought my second brother was going to be a lawyer. He ended up being a math teacher. My parents were teachers, so he ended up copying them. My mom was an English teacher, and in high school she taught English and French, and my dad was a music teacher. Oh. And he became a teacher. The other three boys, because four of us, none of us became teachers. So who we thought was going to be a lawyer, because my mom said he argued a month. So if you argue so much, son, be a lawyer, you know. They even had an account for him to be a lawyer. And then once he decided that's not the path for him, then mom said, "We're going to spend that money on something else."
Absolutely.
And so, you know, sometimes, Dr. McIntyre, I tell students that you have to go for your passion, your dreams. Your parents may have one road for you, but then there's another road that you may go. Now, did you decide automatically that you're going to open up your practice as soon as you got your degrees?
Absolutely not. So when I first got my degree, that is something that came many years later. I received my first master's in psychology in the year of 2011. I do encourage everyone listening, everyone having the opportunity to watch, to make sure that wherever you get your degree from, especially if you are entering into the field of counseling, counselor education, or supervision, to make sure that your school is accredited, because because I made that mistake. I went to a school that was not accredited and had to go back and complete a second master's degree. So although that is not the path that I would have wanted to take, although that was not the financially best decision to make, in order to be where I am now, I had to realize that where I was then was not my final destination. And so I went back to school, got that second master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, and I obtained a job working in a place that I had been applying for, I want to say, since 2008. So I didn't start working there until 2019. Again, just because a dream is deferred does not mean that it is no. So started working at an MCO, going into the community, serving others who have a mental health or substance use disorder. And so as I began to navigate and work in the field and begin to glean that experience, I even worked at a private practice as an independent therapist, but not as my own company. And it was not until this year, it was not until 2024, where I typically write down my goals and write down my dreams and go through the previous year's goals to mark things off and say, okay, God, I see what you have blessed me with. It was 3 or 4 days in and I had not done that. And God said, what are you waiting for? And I said, I'm just not enthusiastic about it. For some reason, I wasn't enthusiastic about it, but God said, you need to write the vision and make it plain so that he who reads it will run with it. Mm-hmm. And so I took that time, I wrote out some goals and I said, Lord, it's time for me to get serious about what I have in my heart, the ministry you've laid in my heart. And so January the 3rd, I did the paperwork. Here it is, May 21st. I have a brick and mortar office. God has sent in so many clients, so many opportunities, so many speaking engagements, such as what I'm doing today with you, Mr. Rivers. And so when God lays it on your heart, he has given you that vision. He has given you that dream. He will provide the means and the necessity. You won't have to beg or plead or for it, but God will make provision. And that is exactly what he is doing now.
Man, that is an incredible story and testimony. So faith is a big part of your counseling, would you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so dealing with, especially you were talking about the Black and brown community, and there was a stigma back in the day. And since I'm a little older, y'all, than Dr. McIntyre, it was really bad. The only thing you would hear, Dr. McIntyre, is that if a Black person wanted counseling or a brown person wanted counseling, they go to the barber shop or the beauty shop. That's the only way you got counseling. And there was a stigma to mental health, that he's just crazy or she's just crazy, and it was never addressed. And I think that's something in our community that need to be addressed. I think we've gotten better. Would you say that we have improved as a community as far as addressing mental health?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have definitely made progress in where we are going. Again, I will mention that term, your final destination. The Black and brown church is not at its final destination. It is not where it could be in comparison with other congregations. Let's say the Anglo-Saxon congregation. Mm-hmm. However, we are making huge strides. There are so many pastors who are embracing mental health, who are trying to understand mental health themselves. And again, understanding that Jesus plus therapy equals healing.
Yes. And I think faith plays a major part in our lives. And so it's also going to play a major part in our spiritual life. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't like to combine that. When I'm looking at different social medias, a lot of people now combine their business and faith, and their whole life in faith, their personal life in faith, which we're supposed to do in the first place. Faith is all around us, and we're supposed to combine that and be, not of the world, but part of the world, and serve him. And everybody serve him differently. And if mental, as far as counsel is concerned, is your gift, please do that, and explain that gifts to people, because we need that in our community. Mm-hmm. How much has COVID really impacted mental health these days? Because before COVID, it was one way we used to think, because we thought everything in the world was going to be ours, flowers. There's nothing that will stop me from making my goal, my dreams. And then we had that sudden stop. And from schools to hospitals to stores, everybody had to make their adjustment. How much has that impact our mental health going through that situation and that time period?
Absolutely. COVID has had an immense impact on the field of mental health. We can look at it on a spectrum. On one side of that spectrum, COVID came in and it shifted the forefront. It shifted how practitioners, providers, insurance panels actually responded to the needs of people who had mental health disorders. Because at first, you had to have a certain certification in order to provide telemental health. It was something that was actually slowly propelling and getting trajectory for. However, with COVID, it escalated this need, and practitioners, insurance providers was able to say, okay, we see the need and we have to make a way forward. So now we have the convenience of receiving amazing mental health services from the convenience of our home, from a cell phone, from text messaging. So COVID shifted the platform for mental health. It also brought that discussion to the forefront of everyone's living room. You had celebrities talking about it. You had your pastors talking about it. You had news anchors talking about it, because it was not just seen as a label or a stigma that one person or one type of people had a mental health concern or disorder. It was now impacting everyone. And so it brought mental health to the frontal lobe of everyone. It brought it into our living rooms with the 5 o'clock news. And then it began to go to the other side of that spectrum, just from having concerns of isolation or concerns of depression. Now goes to the other side of the spectrum, because it's impacting the way that we interact. It's impacting our children and their development. We begin to see concerns with isolation, anxiety, depression. We begin to see all of these red flags. And now we're saying, what do we do with this now? So COVID had the ability to highlight the need for mental health services provided to a vast majority who would not necessarily be eligible for it or know how to tap into it. But at the other side, it also stunted the developmental growth of many of our children, our adolescents, our geriatric populations. And it left us saying, where do we turn to now for help?
Yeah, and has that been embraced more by insurance companies now? Are more insurances covering mental health for those who can afford it? Because back in my day, it was only like the rich could afford mental health, right? Only the rich could afford therapists. I know I'm a veteran, and so I know veteran have services, especially with mental health, dealing with the trauma that they come with being in the military and maybe going to war. And so has insurance companies embraced and supply more funds for mental health for their patients or their clients?
Yes, sir. And first, I want to say thank you so much for your to this country. We truly appreciate. Yes, insurance agencies, they have stepped up more than what they were to meet those needs, to meet the growing demands. Recently in the state of North Carolina, where I reside, there has been a Medicaid expansion so that many individuals who may not have necessarily been eligible for Medicaid, let's say in 2019, 2020, or even just last year in 2023, they are now eligible for services because the income limits and those requirements have been relaxed. So just because we have to decide, do I need to pay my rent or my mortgage, or do I need to worry about this depression or anxiety? What do I need to focus on? Which takes precedence? Going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I need to worry about where I'm going to lay my head. I need to worry about how I make sure these lights are staying on, and try to push that mental health to the back burner or cope with it in another way. So many insurance providers have stepped up. They've identified that need. And a lot of them, some people may have no copays at all, where some may have a lower $25, $50, $40 copay. However, many therapists have also stepped up, providing free to subsidized low-cost services in order to meet the growing demand of concerns. Number one, like you said, that COVID pretty much highlighted and exacerbated for us.
So let's talk about your practice. Does that also include your practice? Do you also do telehealth and other services that may be provided for people within your community?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I would be remiss if I did not serve my community. My community is what poured into me and produced who I am today. So for that, I am grateful. I actually have a contract in Mecklenburg County with Heartbeat Inc. And they're also called Thrive Family Wellness, where they are providing and going into the Black churches and providing 10 individual free sessions for any individual who wants to sign up for this. So I am going back into the community. I am providing my services. whether it's free pro bono, whether it's a sliding fee scale, or helping people get connected to resources within their community if I am not the right fit. So I do tell everyone therapy is like finding the best pair of shoes for you. Just because you might like the way they look, you might not like that price tag, or it might just not be a good fit. So what do we do when we go to the shoe store? We try on the pair until we find the right one. And that's exactly what we have to do for therapy. So I encourage people, find someone who looks like you, find someone who can relate to you, who gets you, and someone that you have that rapport and connection with.
Man, that is great because I mean it's really needed. I know I have I go to therapists myself, being a veteran. I maybe get those services for free or very reduced price. And I think today with today's society, as far as inflation and cost of living going up and the other pressures that come with living these days, what about young people? My target audience is mainly high school and college students. How do they approach therapy? Do they also think if they feel lonely or because cyberbullying is real? You know, we got the social media out there and it can be real. How do a teenager or a young person say, hey, how can I reach out? Do I need therapy? Is there a therapy or a place for me in therapy to where I can get some help? Because it's just so much coming at me and so much peer pressure.
Absolutely. So when you talk about those Gen Zers, the one that we're seeing now, those who are in high school, those who are in the undergrad programs, they face so much that they don't talk about. So before we talk about how to find services, I want you to know that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to not be okay, and let you know that you are not alone in what you're facing today. No, you're not odd. No, you're not crazy. No, there's nothing wrong with you. You are just navigating life and trying to find who you are. It's a part of your development at this age and where you are. COVID came in and it stunted so much of our developmental growth. It stunted so much of our social interaction. So you're still trying to learn and find yourself, and it's okay. Number one, I hope that if you have a safe space within your family, within your friends, within your church group, that you can find someone to confide in and share what's really going on within you and what you're facing. If you don't have a safe space, there's always the 988 hotline where they can get you connected to resources. This is a simple text message where you can reach out and find help. If you're in college, there's always a counseling center on campus held by licensed professionals. That is always free of cost. There might be a wait, and if there is a wait, it's always okay to get online. If you are Black and brown and you're looking for someone who may look like you, there's therapy for Black girls. There's always Psychology Today, and there's actually one of the gentlemen that I acquainted with, he has a practice in Charlotte, the Black Male Therapist Network for Black men who are looking for Black men counselors. So there is help out there for you. And all you have to do is just be brave enough to say, I need help. And sometimes that is the hardest words for us to get out of our mouths because we are taught to suck it up, buttercup. We are taught to just be strong. We are taught that we have to embrace the hardness. We've got to push through. We have to just get over it. But at this time and day, there is so much coming at us that you don't have to go through this alone, that you deserve help, and help is out there and available for you.
Yeah, that is very great information, Dr. McIntyre, because as a young person, the pressures that me and you went through are totally different than the pressures they go through today. Oh, yes. And hopefully with the recent, I say in the last 10 years, with the push of a lot of public announcements, a lot of services that they tell you when you enter school or college, even in high school, a lot of counselors there. Like you said, a lot of licensed counselors throughout the whole community as well as schools and military. If young people, if you need that help, don't be ashamed, don't be afraid, ask for help. You know, the worst thing is not to ask for help when you need it. And so as I'm a host of this show and a father of two, then I am not ashamed to tell my sons that, hey, if you need therapy, if you need help, get that help, okay? And it's on there. So what are some of the, I would say, some of the problems or some of the things that you notice now in your practice? Is it addressing suicide in young people? Is it addressing addiction? Is it addressing just trying to find themselves? What are some of the problems you're noticing today?
Absolutely. A lot that I'm finding is the stunting of the developmental and the social growth because of COVID. So many individuals, so many children, teens, adolescents are struggling to find themselves and to fit in. Everyone wants to fit in. And the thing about it is, you may not need to fit in because when you fit in, you cannot stand out. Your uniqueness, your gifts, your ministry will not be able to shine and thrive. However, people are looking for a connection. They are looking for someone who understands them, someone who gets them, someone that they can just lean on. I used to be a big Grey's Anatomy fan. And so people are looking for their person, that person they can turn to, talk to, confide in, share their secrets with. And a lot of them, because they are not able to develop those connections, those solid connections, that they are feeling like there's something wrong with me. And so suicide rates are at an all-time high. And used to back in the day when I was growing up, and I'm pretty sure with you, Mr. Rivers, that when we heard of suicide, we did not consider it. The first thing we said was, you know what, that it wasn't somebody of our complexion. It wasn't someone from our background. But unfortunately, that stigma, that stereotype is no longer accurate, that Black and brown youth are attempting and completing suicide at unprecedented rates. And so that goes to show us that there's a lack and there's a need within our community. So feeling anxious, and that's another thing, that anxiety is also building up because they have all of these requirements. You have to go to school, you have to make that 4.0, you have to make sure that you're finding a job and holding employment and be an all around well-rounded individual. And they're struggling just to know, who am I? How do I balance life and deal with life on life's terms when I'm struggling on the inside?
Yeah, and that is a big area for young people, trying to find themselves. And with social media adding even more pressure, the thing called the brand, right? My brand. And so now you become individualistic. And that's one thing that's maybe bad, or I would say that we need to challenge other Americans about, is that we have this as a society, come to individual, like do it yourself. No, I did it all by myself. I made it all by myself. I did it all by myself, and be proud that you made it by yourself, when in reality, Dr. McIntyre, we all had help. Everyone who's been successful has had help. It may have been family help, it may have been friend help, it may have been church help, or organization or school, but everybody had help. And I think we need to let young people know it's okay to get that help. And don't be ashamed to get help. I mean, people who are successful had help. One hand helps the other hand. And so I think the thing that I'm trying to get to young people is, don't go into this alone. Whether you're going to school, whether you're going to do an apprenticeship, whether you're going to military, or you're just going to get a job and hopefully get promoted to the position that you sought after that job. So I want young people to know that, hey, it's okay to get help. It's okay to do what you need to do. And hopefully before you get to that bad measure or that bad point to where you're even contemplating suicide, that you'll reach out to a loved one, to a counselor, and to the number that Dr. McIntyre said. What is that number again, Dr. McIntyre?
988.
Reach out to 988 and give them a call, because we really want young people to know that, hey, we're here for you. We know that you're going through pressures that we never went through, that's unprecedented, but we're going to try to make it as best as possible for you to make it through that trouble or that situation that seemed unsurmountable.
Yeah.
Dr. McIntyre, what about adults these days? As to talk to adults, we talking about teachers, we talking about professionals, and the person they go to. What do you see some of the trends that they're having trouble with these days as far as mental health is concerned?
Absolutely. So many adults are truly struggling with, number one, raising healthy young adults. Raising those children. Another thing that is so real is inflation. How am I supposed to be able to afford the bills? Everything is going up but the paycheck. Yes. And then they're dealing with their own health issues and navigating getting older, navigating their faith, maybe losing loved ones. And I don't mind sharing, I am 39 years old. I'm about to say goodbye to the 30s and hello 40s. And so many people in my life, so many of my colleagues who are around the same age, we're losing loved ones, we're losing our parents. And so navigating grief in a healthy way, navigating divorce, navigating relationships and marriages, blended families. So there's a host of issues that people, let's say 30 and up, are facing right now. But number one, the overall theme is dealing with inflation and dealing with family issues while also dealing with their own physical health and their mental health.
Yeah, and definitely, as I have stated earlier on episodes of my podcast, is that I'm over 50 plus. And so that comes that what they call midlife crisis, right? Where I'm really trying to find myself, you know. And if you're over 50 plus, you may become an empty nester, you may become a grandparent, even more pressures there. And unfortunately today, Dr. McIntyre, as far as I know, as information has been out there, is that more grandparents are raising kids today than ever before. So there you go thinking mentally, Dr. McIntyre, is that, hey, okay, once I get to a certain age, once I get my kids out of the house, I'm free. You know, and if I do have grandkids, they will be with their parents and they come here, they say, hey, I love you, and then leave. But that's not the case. More than ever, and I even have family members, they're taking care of their young ones or their grandsons or granddaughters than ever before. What do you say to those parents or grandparents who are taking on much more responsibility at a longer time than they thought they would be?
I would say to them that you are not alone, that there are so many support groups and there are so many resources that are allotted. I know that that generation who comes in and they're taking care of their grandkids, they're taking care of maybe a great niece or a great nephew, that maybe a struggle where they don't want to ask for help, but they want to be that support, that foundation for their family. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, wow, things are completely different. Just thinking about this is the end of the school year, but what happens in August? Kids are going back to school, and instead of sending that folder that has all the papers, consent forms and notifications and policies in them, now there's a QR code that you have to scan. So there's also that technology barrier that they're trying to say, okay, how do I navigate all of this? So there are so many supports within your community. There's also help talking to a therapist to say, you know what, this is not the life I signed up for, that I should be enjoying my retirement, that I should not have to try to stretch my Social Security or my disability payments in order to cover diapers or formula or after school programs or football cleats. So understanding that this may not be the life that you signed up for, but that you are resilient, that you have everything that you need within you in order to navigate this life and to do it successfully and to thrive, that you just have to lean into your spiritual beliefs and you have to lean onto a profession that can help you guide and just kind of navigate how do you get to that final destination where you are happy, whole, and healed.
That is great information. I would be remiss if I didn't say about caregivers. That's one that I became a caregiver between my mother and then my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. And that's one part of my life I did not think that would ever occur, to be honest with you. I thought like everybody else, you go to school, get married, have kids, then you become grandparents, then you die. But nobody ever talks about caregiving, that you have to take care of your parents and they become ill, they may require more work and then financial agencies to have to take care of them. So I ended up putting my mother, had to go into a assisted living, and then after COVID, my mother-in-law died and then my father died a couple years after that. And during that stretch, that's caregiving. So I had kids to raise, I had a job, I had all those extra pressures. And I did not reach out to a therapist till after everything happened, to be honest. But how much is caregiving as far as we need to be assistance as far as you're a caregiver, you need to also take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is so cliche to say you can't pour from an empty cup, but you absolutely cannot. And when you're pouring fumes, you're pouring negativity, you're pouring self-hate, you're pouring depression and anxiety and anxiousness into other people. So what you pour out is what you have inside of you. And so in order to be a caregiver, you have to be in the best shape, not just physically, financially, but also emotionally and mentally and even spiritually. So it's okay to ask for help as a caregiver. It's okay to even say, I need a break. And so not just something for your mental well-being, but it's to also understand that if as a caregiver, if your family is receiving any type of Medicare or Medicaid services, that you can reach out to your local MCO, your local social services, and you can inquire about respite care, that you can ask for assistance from a care manager who will be able to help you navigate this system and understand understand that you are not by yourself trying to aid and assist and be there, because as a caretaker, it is exhausting. And it is something that some, especially in the Black and brown communities, we wear it as a crown of honor to be able to bring our family in to take care of them. But at the end of the day, we still have a 9 to 5 to go to.
Yeah.
We still have our relationship with our significant other. We might still have young children in the home. And there are other financial responsibilities and other obligations we have to take care of. And so asking for help, talking to that therapist to say, okay, how is it that I'm able to just keep my cool when all I want to do is just come home, cook dinner, throw my feet up on the table, have a good drink of iced tea or lemonade and just relax. But I can't do that anymore. My norm has been interrupted. And therapy helps you understand, how do you come to a new norm when there's now chaos that has come in? How do I still show love and respect, but take care of myself? How do I navigate this life and do it unselfishly? And that's what therapy is for.
Man, that is fantastic. I mean, the words that you have said today and the and the nuggets that we have received, that I have received, has been unfounded. It is fantastic. It is amazing, because I think we needed that. I think we needed like a resource. I think we need to reset, And I am definitely going to have you back on our show, Dr. McIntyre, because I got 1,000 questions in my head I want to ask, but this only can last for so long, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. McIntyre, I normally have my parting words, but how can people get in touch with you if they have any questions, or they may have some type of assistance they need services for?
Yes, sir. So they can reach out to me on any social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or even TikTok at Speak Your Peace Counseling, or you can come to my website, speakyourpeacecounseling.com, or they can just simply give me a call or text at 980-224-0412. And
we also will have Dr. McIntyre information on our website and other social media platforms that we offer. Dr. McIntyre, thank you so much for coming on our show today. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. It has been an honor and a privilege. Thank you again.
And I also like to take this time to thank our superstar patrons. That is Mr. William B. Shuford and Mr. Brian Lowe. Now, if you want to support this podcast financially, you can go to www.careereducationlearningcenter.com. Lastly, let me thank my viewers and listeners for joining me, Mitchell Rivers, on another episode of the Career Education Learning Center podcast, where we're making your career dreams a reality. God bless.